The young man named Jack Han was a disciple of the Wudang sect, a sect known for dragging each other to the stone platform by the river to practice martial arts every 3 days. At night, they diligently refined elixirs. Perhaps everyone in the sect understood the essence of discipline. In life, one should not contend with the strong if lacking strength, nor argue with fools to avoid wasting breath, and especially avoid entangling with women to preserve one's kidneys. Because of this philosophy, the Grandmaster of Wudang had lived over 100 spring festivals without making any enemies. Though his hair was white and wispy, he was still as strong as an 18-year-old. However, he had held on to power for too long, never letting the younger generation gain any fame, which wasn't ideal. Thus, during this competition for the Feather of Honor, the Grandmaster sought to choose a worthy disciple, both talented and virtuous, to succeed him and take the seat of the new sect leader. The contest used the stone platform in the river as the arena. Wudang disciples were divided into 2 teams, black and white. As soon as the signal to begin was given, the white team skillfully leapt into the air, causing many on the black team to fall into the water. This was a strategy devised by Jack Han for the white team. The rules of the contest were simple. The team that seized the feather from the opponent's head and remained standing on the platform without falling into the river, with even just one member holding out until the end, would win. Jack Han, the key member of the white team, was the most outstanding disciple of Wudang, known not only for his intelligence, but also for his extraordinary martial arts and swift agility. During the contest, he fully supported his teammates and even sacrificed himself by jumping into the water so that his teammate could secure the victory for their team. He was selfless and understood the bigger picture, precisely the kind of character the old Grandmaster needed. Jack Han possessed both talent and virtue, worthy of inheriting the seat of the new Grandmaster and leading the sect. Before appointing him, the Grandmaster sent Jack Han to the capital, bringing with him 2 precious crimson elixirs refined day and night by the sect to cure the emperor. Jack accepted the mission and began his journey to the capital. On that day, he accidentally wandered into the Golden Dragon Cavern and discovered a secret martial art engraved on a stone, Heartless Technique. Suddenly, a girl flying on a sword burst out, stopping him from continuing to read. She was an ethereal beauty with long, flowing black hair and a striking white robe. Her martial arts were on par with his, leaving him feeling shaken from his first close encounter with a woman. The Heartless Technique was left behind by her grandmother. Upon learning that she had yet to master it, Jack Han advised her to stop pursuing it. Though powerful, the technique could cause practitioners to descend into madness. When he asked for her name, she gave no answer and left him behind. At that time, the people were suffering terribly from poverty and famine, especially those living near the border. 2 generals were stationed there, one being the old governor surnamed Jack, likely Jack Han's grandfather, and the other a subordinate general surnamed Kim. Eventually, Jack Han reached the capital. During his visit to the palace, his handsome appearance caught the eye of a young lady. But his heart had already been stirred by the girl in the cave, so he could no longer feel affection for anyone else. After delivering the crimson elixirs, he learned that the emperor was too ill to meet him and asked to take his leave. Unexpectedly, the 2 precious gems were stolen by the eunuch Nguyen Yu. This treacherous eunuch had long harbored plans of rebellion. When someone from outside brought elixirs for the emperor, Nguyen seized the opportunity. Claiming the emperor had been poisoned by the elixirs, he accused the Wudang sect of treason. With the emperor dead and the 3-year-old crown prince ascending the throne, Nguyen easily manipulated the child as a puppet. Under the young emperor's name, he ordered the imperial guards to arrest the murderer responsible for the emperor's death. That scapegoat was none other than our unfortunate Jack Han. The imperial guards stormed Mount Wudang to capture him, but he hadn't returned. His 3 martial uncles had to accompany the guards to find him and clear the sect's name. Jack Han, unaware of any of this, only wanted to reach the border, visit his grandfather's garrison, and help the starving people. But he was powerless. His food supplies had long run out. In these famine-stricken times, people even burned human bones for fuel. When he couldn't even care for himself, how could he help others? Meanwhile, The long-haired girl turned out to be the leader of a group called Moonlight Camp. Her base was located on a rocky peak with a treacherous terrain, making it impossible for the Imperial Army to capture her. Gok Lasat chose to set up camp at Moonlight Peak, not just to defy the court, but to guard the frontier against the invading Jin forces. These foreign armies had to pass through Moonlight Peak to invade the Central Plains. Not knowing the terrain well, they often sent gold and silver to bribe Ngok Lasat, hoping she would lead them through. But she never betrayed her homeland. The cowardly envoys sent by the Jin were all wiped out by her. That was her strong and defiant answer. The governor knew of the Jin army's ambitions and suspected a traitor within the military, as the enemy had been avoiding their ambushes. Worse yet, an epidemic was sweeping through the area, claiming the lives of many. Ngok Lasat mistakenly believed the governor ordered troops to slaughter civilians, so she and her sister charged into the military camp and fought fiercely. When a hidden weapon grazed the governor's neck, it served as a warning not to oppress the people. She had no intention of killing him. However, the Deputy General Kim took advantage of the chaos to eliminate his superior. It turned out he was the Jin army's mole, embedded within the Central Plains military. Stationed near Moonlight Peak, he had been waiting for the chance to eliminate the governor and support the Jin's invasion. He framed Ngok Lasat and her sister for the murder. In this battle, her younger sister unfortunately fell into his hands. The two sisters often distributed food to the poor, so the people were furious when they saw the younger sister being tortured by the soldier. Ethan must have been affected by this wave of outrage. He was about to rescue the girl when Scarlet Luna appeared. Those three weak soldiers were no match for her. She unlocked her sister's chains. The two sisters charged into battle together, and Ethan seemed to recognize the woman of his dreams. He didn't hesitate to rush through a hail of arrows to lend her a hand. Scarlet Luna seized a horse and extended her hand to pull Ethan back to the main base. Her sister also performed a stunning role and stole a horse for herself. The two sisters even brought along dozens of starving villagers. Lieutenant General Gold did not give chase. His plan was to let the villagers, infected with plague, spread the disease throughout Moonlight Fortress. Outsiders might curse the fortress as a bandit lair, but those who entered would realize it was better than the famine and misery outside. Ethan stood in awe watching Scarlet Luna play the flute on a cliff. Since leaving the mountain, he had gone against his master's teachings. He had become entangled with a female assassin and had made enemies of the Imperial Army for her. Before long, Sunho discovered that the villagers she and her sister brought back were infected with the plague. She couldn't allow them to infect others in the fortress, so she wanted to burn them alive. Ethan, unable to stand by, volunteered to treat them. He promised Scarlet Luna that if he failed to cure them in 3 days, he would die in the flames with them. Scarlet Luna saw in him a man of great integrity, someone she could trust and rely on. She had always despised men, but now she personally went with him to search for herbs, revealed her secret of communicating with wolves, and even led him to the hidden path of Moonlight Mountain, a path long coveted by the Jin army. Meanwhile, outside, the Imperial Guards and members of the Wudang sect had arrived, looking for the governor, suspecting that Ethan was hiding with his grandfather. Lieutenant General Gold took advantage of the situation and announced the governor's death, blaming it on the outlaw Scarlet Luna, hoping to use the court's power to crush Moonlight Fortress. While this unfolded, Scarlet Luna and Ethan were growing close. It seemed even this icy woman was beginning to melt under Ethan's corny confessions. She felt that although this man had a honeyed tongue, he was truly capable. After 3 days, he had indeed cured the villagers. That night, Scarlet Luna opened her heart and drank with him. It turned out the loveless martial technique found in the cave was created by her grandmother, who had been betrayed by her lover and, in her grief, devised it. Love to her was the deadliest poison. Therefore, she swore never to entangle herself in love. At the Sky Lantern Festival, the fortress lit a bonfire to pray for peace. In such hard times, people placed all their hope and faith into those lanterns, each carrying their heartfelt wishes. Wishes for enough food and clothing, for a happy family. Ethan used the opportunity to confess his love to Scarlet Luna. Love was their destiny. Their meeting and falling in love was fated. He asked her to give him a chance to prove himself, a loyal man who would love her with all his heart. That night, Scarlet Luna became Ethan's woman. The next morning, he asked her to go with him to meet his grandfather, his only living family. After that, they would marry and live happily ever after in Moonlight Fortress. But life rarely turns out as beautifully as one hopes. The Imperial Guards arrived at the fortress, accusing Scarlet Luna of assassinating the governor. Only then did she learn the governor was Ethan's grandfather. She swore she hadn't killed him, and Ethan chose to believe her. But now, the Wudang sect was in trouble. Attempted regicide was a grave offense. Ethan had to leave to handle matters. He promised to return once everything was settled. 3 Wudang elders knelt all day outside the palace, begging the emperor to clear the sect's name. But the young emperor was too busy playing with building blocks. The Grand Elder at home was constantly pressured by palace eunuchs to place the blame on Ethan to protect the sect. Yet he replied that the Wudang sect was clean, and so was his disciple. Then he threw himself into a deep ravine, a final act of defiance against evil. Ethan was imprisoned. The prisoner in the next cell was brutally tortured, but Ethan was left untouched, for he still had value. The former emperor's death left the nation leaderless. The false eunuch was, in fact, a treacherous minister. He wanted to use the Wudang sect's reputation to force Ethan into falsely confessing. Coincidentally, the prisoner next to Ethan was a political figure, General Valor. He had refused to join the traitor's faction and had been framed. Knowing he would not survive, he begged Ethan to pretend to submit to the traitor. Only then could Ethan deliver his military strategy manual to a righteous general at the border. Ethan agreed. After his release, he obeyed all the eunuch's commands. The eunuch had just executed General Valor and wanted Ethan to carry his severed head. He went around the city telling the people that General Hero was actually a spy for the Jin army and that he had to go to the border to lure the commander back to the false eunuch. The 3 martial uncles, unaware of Ethan's plan, scolded him as a coward. They declared that from now on, the Wudang sect no longer had a disciple like him, and Ethan publicly announced before the people, "From this moment, I sever my ties with the Wudang sect. Everything I do from now on has nothing to do with Wudang." When Ethan reached the border, the commander initially showed open defiance. He swore he would avenge General Hero. But upon discovering the military strategy manual that Ethan had hidden beneath a box of cakes, the commander finally understood the ruse between Ethan and General Hero. He then pretended to pledge loyalty to the false eunuch in front of the eunuch's men. Meanwhile, Rose Demon waited for Ethan day and night in the mountains, longing for his return. Though she had heard that he had become an official in the imperial court and was even preparing to marry the false eunuch's daughter. It turned out that after assigning Ethan his mission, the false eunuch also told him that he had married and had a daughter before entering the palace. That daughter was Daisy, who had long admired Ethan and asked the eunuch to arrange their marriage. After handing over the military manual, Ethan still wished to avenge his master, which led him to marry Daisy. On their wedding night, Rose Demon, with a broken heart, stormed in and snatched Daisy's wedding gown, still believing that Ethan would never abandon her. But when she saw Ethan shielding Daisy with all his might, Rose Demon fell silent. Her grief was so intense that her entire body went numb. When the soldiers found her, her hair had turned silver white. She let them whip her mercilessly without resistance. She could not fight back, nor did she want to. Ethan rushed out to protect Rose Demon in his arms. Seeing her in that state, he no longer wanted revenge. He abandoned his bride, Daisy, and took Rose Demon back to Moonlight Camp. The false eunuch, upon learning that his beloved daughter had been abandoned, was deeply hurt, but he merely thought Ethan was unworthy. He had already framed Ethan for killing the Emperor and had no idea that Ethan had colluded with the commander using the military manual. Back at Moonlight Camp, Rose Demon was so grief-stricken she couldn't wake up. The elder said that only a flower from the underworld hell could save her. But Ethan had only 1 hour left to pick the flower. As he approached the flower, its poison paralyzed him. Yet the power of love helped him crawl the final steps. He managed to touch the flower just before it froze. He hurried back to Moonlight Camp and used the flower's power to revive Rose Demon. The misunderstanding between them was cleared, and their love was restored. But love had to stand alongside duty to the nation. Now that the Jinn armies sought to invade the Central Plains, Moonlight Camp alone could not hold them off for long. Thus, they decided to cooperate with the Imperial forces to resist the Jinn. The three martial uncles handed their sacred sword to Ethan. The plan to fight the Jinn was underway. Vice Commander Jin would lead his troops around the enemy's rear to drive them toward Rose Demon's ambush. But to reach the rear without being detected, they had to pass through Moonlight Mountain. Rose Demon agreed. She never imagined that her nod would invite the wolf into the house. For the moment, the Vice Commander entered Moonlight Camp. He leapt high and ordered his troops to slaughter the innocent. The elders, caught off guard, stood no chance. Ethan fought the Vice Commander, but his Central Plains martial arts could not match the Jinn techniques. Only then did he realize that the Vice Commander was actually a Jinn spy, and the one who had killed his grandfather. Elsewhere, Rose Demon's forces waited at the foot of the mountain for the Vice Commander's troops that never arrived. She rushed back to Moonlight Camp to investigate, only to encounter an ambush by the Jinn army. Brave Sando stayed behind to fight and perished. Rose Demon returned to see a scene of devastation and her lover hanging high above. She broke the post and pulled him down, but before she could untie him, the Vice Commander yanked him back. Rose Demon fought fiercely, but the Vice Commander's soldiers were as numerous as ants, and he still held Ethan hostage. After a hopeless resistance, Rose Demon dropped her sword and surrendered. The Vice Commander took the news of capturing Moonlight Camp to his younger brother. He wished to return to the Jinn army and lead troops through the camp to conquer the Central Plains. But his brother revealed that one of their battalions had already been defeated by the commander's forces, thanks to the military manual Ethan had delivered. Thus, the Jinn no longer had enough troops to take the Central Plains. The Vice Commander was forced to stay behind as a spy and could not return home. If possible, he was to win over the false eunuch. The Deputy General had long wished to return to his homeland, so naturally, he couldn't accept this situation. Meanwhile, Jade Demoness and Ethan were thrown into prison. At this point, there was only one way to save them both. That was for Jade Demoness to successfully master the Heartless technique. But what she had to sacrifice was the memory of her love. She told Ethan, "If I forget you in the future, you must remind me." Then she began cultivating the Heartless technique. Once she mastered it, Jade Demoness became a true dark enchantress. She possessed incredible power but forgot Ethan completely. Instead, she turned against Deputy General Kim, who dared to seize her territory. She beat him to a pulp. Now, he was no longer a match for her. He fled to the mountain peak, trying to escape, but beneath him lay only bottomless cliffs. When he saw Ethan jump up after him, he sneered. "She's turned into a demon now. She doesn't remember you anymore. You're just like me. We've both lost everything." With that, he tried to drag Jade Demoness down the cliff with him. Ethan tightly grabbed her hand. He reminded her of the miraculous journey of their love, from the moment they met to when their feelings deepened into love. His genuine emotions unexpectedly touched Jade Demoness. She regained her senses, and her heart beat once more for love. But in the end, she was still pulled down by the Deputy General. Ethan gave up everything and leapt down after her. They didn't foolishly die for love, but they sacrificed themselves for love and their country. May they, in the next life, return to each other's side and live a peaceful, happy life. That's the end of today's movie. If you enjoyed it, give us a like and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more reviews.